Howdy folks, I'm Amicable American Copper, amazingly emulating antagonistic ants.
I'm Amber.
And here are more antagonistic ants for us to emulate. I don't really know what we're doing with them in this particular context.
We're making them less antagonistic.
Oh, I see now. We're improving their antagonistic behaviors. So folks, if you don't see me biting people, then you know that I've been emulated. Let's get started. Alright folks, and our first letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Accidentally Triggering My Girlfriend? So for a little bit of backstory, I, a 26-year-old male, have been dating my girlfriend Jess, a 27-year-old female, for 3 years. We have a great relationship. Early on, we had several big fights and went to couples counseling. We ended up going for 4 months and came up with healthy ways to communicate. About 2 months after ending therapy, Jess's dad died. She didn't tell me for weeks, which really hurt, but I knew that they didn't have a good relationship. But Jess had always said that she wasn't comfortable saying anything beyond that and asked for me to let it lie. So I did. Well, flash forward to this week. I was starting up a big study. I work as a PhD in psychology TA with my students. It's on exposure therapy, aka slowly introducing things that people dislike. I wanted to do a real life example, so I asked Jess if I could test it out on her. She said yes, of course. She's always hated the smell of lavender, to the point that her eyes water, and she leaves the room if she smells it. So I thought that this was a natural choice for my study. Well, yesterday morning, I started by adding a single scented bead to our laundry, and then poured scented soap down the drain in our shower. Next, I rubbed a scent pod on the sides of our mattress and on the shelves in our closet and pantry. I could barely tell that it was there, even from a few inches away, but the point was subtlety. Well, when my girlfriend got home from work yesterday, she was off right away. She kept glancing back and forth. She looked really scared. Her breathing picked up. I tried to talk to her, but she used our fight safe word and then walked into our room and shut the door. A few minutes later, I heard the shower turn on. I started getting dinner ready, but then I heard sobbing and I ran into the bathroom. She was curled up on the floor, shaking, clawing at her arms. It was terrifying. I got her out of the shower and onto her bed, but she couldn't stop shaking. She had panic attacks in the past, but this was on a level that I'd never seen. I was about to call 911 when I remembered the lavender that I had put everywhere, so I brought her into the guest room, and she was able to breathe there and calm down enough to talk to me. She ended up falling asleep in there, so I immediately cleaned every source of the smell. When she woke up today, I told her what I had done, and she was furious. She said that I knew that lavender was one of her biggest triggers. I absolutely didn't. And that I took her back to a really horrible experience involving her dad from her childhood, which she had never told me happened. I felt awful and I tried to apologize, but she just packed a bag and left. She texted me earlier and said that she couldn't trust me anymore and that she was going to stay with her sister for a little while. Now, the sister and 2 of Jess's friends are flooding my phone with texts about how abusive I am. But she genuinely never told me that lavender was a trigger or that she had a traumatic experience linked to it. I don't know how to fix this. I love her so much and I just feel awful. All right, folks, what do you think?
Oh my goodness, OP, yes, you're the jerk, and also you should not be in a psychology program because you fundamentally misunderstand what exposure therapy is. Exposure therapy done well, yes, allows people to confront their fears. So OP's admitting outright that he knew that she had some kind of fear or aversion to the lavender. But it's in a very controlled environment. Like the person, it has informed consent. So like just telling her, oh, can I try exposure therapy on you is not enough. You have to explain specifically what you're going to be doing. And she has to be able to consent or back out at every step of the process.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest problem that OP had here. I don't think they were malicious, but I do think that they didn't understand how traumatizing the scent of lavender was for their partner, and they should have talked to them beforehand and worked out a plan on what it would involve and how they would control this in such a way where she wouldn't be re-traumatized by the scent. And again, like exposure therapy done right, is effective. It can be effective, but it needs to be done under very, very controlled circumstances. And I just don't think that he planned that far ahead. I think part of the reason why he didn't plan that far ahead is because he didn't truly understand how traumatizing Lavender was for her, and that is his problem, not her problem.
Well, he also fundamentally misunderstands what exposure therapy is because, again, like, it's not fill your entire house with triggers and bounce the person from room to room.
Yeah.
It's you have one very specific, like, let's say someone's afraid of spiders. You might have a room with a spider in a glass cage and you ask them to go walk into it. You don't just like throw them into an abandoned house where there's spiders in every corner and be like, okay, good luck, have fun.
Yeah. So, yeah, I just think that he made some horrible mistakes here and was not a very good partner. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. But folks, let's see what the Wheel of Judgment has to say. Wheel of Judgment, turn, 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 tell us the judgment that OP's earned. No chill, only drama. I mean, it works, kind of. It kind of works.
It kind of works. I mean, I think the wheel's missing some the bigger picture too. That like, but you know, we'll give it to the wheel.
Yeah. And OP replies to the master thread here. I fully accept my jerk judgment. Thank you for the responses. I'm going to send a long message to her and her sister explaining that I truly did not know that she had a negative experience tied to Lavender and that I'm so incredibly sorry for what I did. I truly thought Lavender was just like her dislike of mushrooms, where she'll twist up her face and won't eat anything close to where a mushroom touched, but isn't associated with a traumatic memory. I was wrong. One thing to clarify, I had to remove it because of word count, but her dad died over 2 years ago, shortly after we graduated from couples counseling. I've tried to talk to her about it countless number of times, and even gently recommended therapy a few times, but she would just shut me down. I wanted to respect her wishes, so I didn't push. And to everyone pointing out that this was a clear issue with ethics on my part, you're absolutely right. Informed consent is the first thing that I teach students, and the first thing that I learned when I was an undergrad. The fact that I messed up to such a degree is inexcusable. The extra stupid piece about this is that I recognized that I wasn't actually getting proper informed consent. But I figured that since she was a psych undergrad, we met and became friends in an intro to healthcare ethics class, ironically, and knew the parameters of the study from her own past and research. I didn't have to write out the experiment procedure specifically for her example. My students wrote the study parameters for what will be the actual experiment. But regardless, that was clearly a huge breach of protocol. Also, when she suggested that we do the experiment at home instead of my lab because of how busy she is at work, I should have scrapped it on the spot. I never meant to turn our home into an unsafe place, but I clearly did. And the amount of places that I put Lavender was also inexcusable. I just didn't think that it would be noticeable until I used the pod in the pantry. So I kind of excluded the other places from my count. Clearly, this entire thing was unethical as F, and I severely messed up. As all of you suggested, I will talk to my advisor after class today and tell him everything, and I'll accept whatever comes out of that. And for those asking about my thesis, I can't tell if the interest is genuine or to emphasize my stupidity, so I'll just answer in case. I'm working with veterans with PTSD. There is software where you can program specific events to show their VR goggles so that they're reliving bad war experiences in a safe environment. It's had a ton of success in the past, and I've modified it a bit to include other sensory experiences, like the smell of gas, feeling of hot sand, etc., once they're comfortable with rewatching their own traumatic events. Informed and ongoing consent is a key aspect of this, and it should always be. Thank you all for your feedback. I'm going to accept whatever happens in the responses for my actions. What do you think of all that?
I mean, I'm glad that OP has recognized that he has really, really done something wrong and is going to accept the consequences.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's the important part here is that he is accepting the consequences. It seems like he is truly remorseful for what he's done. And I mean, I think that's about as best as anyone can expect in a situation like this, right? Like, I don't think that he's taking it lightly. All right, folks, and our next letter is titled The Legend of Cass. And folks, this relates to another post. Amber, you want to get into that?
Yeah, so we had a post where OP's sister-in-law was stealing OP's children's clothes and had her daughter steal OP's daughter's toys. And OP basically had her open her luggage. Well, the OP's brother had her open the luggage, and that's where they found all the ill-gotten goods.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so this is update we're going to hear is not from that OP. It's from another person who knew the sister-in-law back in the day.
Yeah, so the woman who stole the clothes and told their kids to steal the clothes and everything else is Cass in this particular case. So we'll get some background on her, and thank you to the person who submitted this. We'll get to reading it now. The Legend of Cass. Well, this certainly has blown up, but who am I to deny the people what they want? Cass lore. For obvious reasons, I'm going to be a little vague with certain details for privacy reasons. Mainly, I don't want this coming back into my life, and hopefully you understand why by the end. So buckle up, this one is long and wild. And please don't judge me, we don't associate with any of these people anymore, and haven't for over a decade. Also, I will say that she is a very pretty girl, and has usually gotten whatever she wants from men, so she's not used to hearing no. In 2005, when I was 18, my then boyfriend, now husband, and I were invited to a house party hosted by a friend of a friend to celebrate graduation. We knew about half of the people there and had been to the house a handful of times before. We were all hanging out in the basement and had a few drinks, and I went upstairs to use the bathroom, and that's where I met Cass, who was 14 at the time. The bathroom door was open, so I walked in and turned on the light, but to my surprise, she was there with some guy in the bathtub doing things you typically wouldn't do in an unlocked room. I apologized and I found a different bathroom. About an hour later, she came downstairs where the rest of us were and locked in on my boyfriend and made a beeline for him. Keeping in mind that I'm right next to him, she tries to sit on his lap, and when he pushes her off, she pops back on like she's a demented jack-in-the-box and immediately starts screeching about how she was just playing and that you aren't even hot and you could do so much better than her. To him. We stayed for another hour or so and then left. A week later, she was blowing up the guy's phone that she hooked up with, telling him that she was pregnant. While he didn't believe her, honestly, who would after just a week, she tried to press charges for sexual assault. I know that my boyfriend and I both had to talk to a police officer because we were both there, and I was the one who walked in on them. I don't know what happened after that, but the charges were eventually dropped. Well, in 2009, my husband and I are 22 and she's 18. And we are now married and living in the East Coast because he's in the military. We come home for his parents' 4th of July party and get tasked with going to get more ice. He runs in to pay, and I'm stranded by the ice chest outside waiting for him, and guess who shows up? She walks straight up to me and says something along the lines of that she's glad that I finally learned my place, and that her and my husband have been so happy together for the last year. She also made some very vulgar comments about their intimate life. I don't even have the time to react to her when he comes back outside and she goes pale and then bright red. Then she has the audacity to look my husband straight in the eye and ask him what he wants for dinner that night and try to remind him of the plans that they have that weekend to go to the lake with her family, while he just stands there staring at her like she's just being ridiculous and asks if he even knows her. I absolutely lose it and almost soil myself from laughing as she stalks off. Once we are back at his parents' house, he gets a Facebook friend request from her and deletes it. Over the period of 3 days, she sends him 4 or 5 friend requests, so he blocks her. We go back to North Carolina the following week and forget all about her again. Well, in 2010, I'm now 7 months pregnant with our daughter, and we fly back to our hometown one last time before she's born. Of course, we run into Cass again at Walmart. I know how it sounds, but we're from a town about 5,000 people, so you kind of see everyone all the time, whether or not you want to. I'm noticeably pregnant as I'm about 7 months along. I'm also only 5'2", and at the time I weighed 115 pounds, so it was very clearly a baby bump. She is with her sister, and they seem to be following us around, but we try to ignore them. We are now checking out, and again, they are right behind us, still acting like children, but in her defense, she was 19 at the time. We are still ignoring them, and her sister says fairly loudly he'll dump her now that she is fat. We continue to ignore them and then leave the store. Later that day, a friend tells us to check the Facebook, and lo and behold, there's a picture of me in a snack aisle with a caption of, "When you catch your surrogate buying nothing but junk food." And so many comments agreeing with how horrible I was. She had been telling everyone that I was a surrogate for her and my husband's baby. We filed a restraining order the next day. Well, finally in 2018, we moved back to our hometown and buy my family's farmland to start our own cattle business. I highly don't recommend this if you like to be able to make and keep plans, see your family, or take vacations. As far as we know, she has gotten married and is living her life far away from us. About 6 months into us being back, we get a letter in the mail from a family lawyer saying that my husband needs to present himself for a paternity test and that we are being sued for child support. Apparently, the baby girl came out white and Cass's husband was not. She told her husband that my husband had assaulted her and that this was his baby. Charges were filed, and thankfully we were still in North Carolina at that time of conception. And the Army is very meticulous about knowing where their soldiers are at all times. The assault charges were immediately dismissed, as were the paternity test and child support. We filed another restraining order and installed cameras all over our property. Her husband ended up adopting the baby and they stayed together. Well, in 2020, she makes front page in our town's newspaper. Apparently, Cass had another baby girl who also did not match her husband's skin tone. He kicked her out and the kids out one night. She came back to his house in full view of the security cameras. In her own car, with the kids, she set his porch on fire. The husband got temporary custody of the girls for about 2 years while Cass was in jail. In 2023, she gets the girls back and dips out of state. The husband files a police report and everyone is looking for her. Unfortunately, the husband passes in a car accident the same year. 2025, I'm doom scrolling on Reddit and I see a story that sounds very familiar, and here we are. Reasons I thought that it was her from the other post. Her and the girl's ages. We knew that she had a baby boy recently. She has a history of theft and immediately playing the victim when get caught. We still have a few mutuals on Facebook and I do see her post from time to time and knew that she moved in with a new guy, OP's brother from the other post, about a year and a half ago. Well, I think that this is the meat and potatoes of it, and I'll be around later this afternoon to answer any questions. I may have some of the dates and stuff off, but my memory is trash these days, and I try not to think about her or any of this ridiculousness. And folks, we're going to go straight into the update on this one. So there's a Cass update. Hey all, this is probably going to be the last Cass update for a little while. It's been a rough 48 hours between some issues that we're having on the farm due to 4 days straight of rain and Cass finding the post about her. I'll try to be brief, but give you guys an update as to what's going on. I've been in contact with OP from the first post and have permission to include a couple of updates from her situation as well. Cass has been arrested, her girls are safe with OP's brother, and they are all back at his house. She found the post and went angry in the comments, and even a post which included a picture of my husband that she took from my Facebook that I have since had deactivated. We called our local sheriff department about the harassment and learned that she had an active warrant. I was able to get in touch with OP to find out exactly where she was, and they contacted the law enforcement agency in that area, and they went and got her. We have press charges as well. Right now, she is looking at stalking, harassment, child endangerment, resisting arrest, and assault on an officer amongst the charges that she had already pending. I knew what might happen if I responded to OP's post, but I do not regret reaching out to her or exposing her antics. What matters is that everyone is safe and she is being held without bond. Update from OP. The girls are safe with my brother and he has all 3 children. He has been awarded temporary guardianship and will be getting them into counseling in the coming weeks. I tried to press charges, but as the items never left my home, I was unable to. We will have the results of the paternity test next week as well, but no matter the outcome, he will be trying to get full rights to my nephew. All right, folks, what do you think of all that?
Oh, what a wild update. I mean, I'm just glad that basically everyone is safe right now. I mean, it sounds like Cass has probably been through a lot of stuff and
Mm-hmm.
needs serious therapy.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I think that what, the story from when she was 14 is just always so harrowing to me. And
Yes.
like,
Well, that is actually harrowing, right? Because I don't know the details about because she was 14. OP doesn't say whether or not this was like a an under 18 person or not, and I'm hoping that it was under 18 since the charges seem to have been dropped and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, this seems like just bad situation after bad situation after bad situation for Cass, you
yeah.
know.
And so, like, what she did is not okay. She
Hmm.
has done so many horrible things, and I'm glad that she's not able to hurt people right now. But I also hope she is able to get some kind of therapy, something to help her work through whatever traumas she has.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that that's really what needs to happen from here. Hopefully, Cass can get into therapy. Hopefully, she can work on herself and, improve because no, but she doesn't need to live a life like this, you know. There's clearly something where she feels compelled to do these things. I don't know. Like, I don't know how people get themselves into these kinds of, bad choices after bad choices a lot of times, you know.
Yeah, well, I'm wondering if she had a really rough upbringing. And again, that doesn't excuse anything. It can
No, of
explain
course
it
not.
without excusing it. But if she has a lot of unresolved trauma, then like that can lead to some really destructive behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, I'm all it's pure speculation, but when 14-year-olds are acting out like that, like oftentimes it's a sign that there's something deeper going on.
Yeah. Well, and the fact that she was going after like an adult, that's kind of troubling, right?
Right. And it may be not the first time an adult, like, yeah, like, I mean, again, I'm just pure speculating, but.
Mm-hmm. Well, these are really difficult situations. They're very challenging, and it's certainly like I mean, I think that this is one of those things where you can see how that kind of you know thing can spiral out of control and cause people to you know lead lives that aren't necessarily stable lives, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now again, like you said, this doesn't excuse anything that Cass has done. Cass is her own person. She
Mm-hmm.
makes her own decisions. She chose to do a lot of bad things and chose to try to get away with them for a long time.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, her actions finally caught up with her. But let me know what you folks think. So, anyhow, take care and good luck. All right, folks, it is tea time. Grab your beverages of choice. I've got some tea right here, and Amber, she has a joke.
What did the pie say during the feud?
Oh, you know, I know a pie, and it has happened to have a feud before. And the reason why it was feuding was because it got steaming hot when it was thrown in the oven. So it was feuding with the oven, and they were fighting. And then there was a clown, and then there was a pied clown, and that made the situation that much more worse. And I mean, you can just imagine that things just have kind of gone downhill from there for the pie. And so the pie said, "I'm the Pied Piper of Hamlet, and I'm going to come and eat all of your pies, and because it's a cannibal pie now."
The pie said, "You want a piece of me?"
Yeah.
And it's National Apple Pie Day.
Oh, so go find yourself an apple pie. Even if you have to go to McDonald's and buy one of those little, apple pies that they have. Do they still sell those?
I have no idea.
Let me know if they still sell those at McDonald's. And I have the special guest tea, some matcha. All right, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Happy Terrific Tuesday, spelled TWO. Amber, we need some kind of moral advice and or guidance, and please have it on being creepy or how not to be creepy.
Don't commit ethics violations. If you're going to conduct research studies, you need IRB approval and like very strict adherence to protocol.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really good advice. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Bye.